Hello, welcome back to the Reading Mama. My name is Heather, and today I'm going to give you a mid-month wrap-up. Now, if you've been watching, I had done a end-of-the-month wrap-up, and then I started doing mid-month wrap-ups because I've been reading so many books, and it makes it a smaller video. And I wasn't going to do the mid-month wrap-up because I never remember by the end of the month which ones I covered. I have to go back and watch my own videos. That feels lame. But I have so many physical books and I need them to go back to the library so that they're not sitting there on my shelf. So I'm going to go through my mid-month wrap-up, share some of the things I'm reading, and then I'm going to show you the giant stack of books that I'm literally in the middle of. So I started out the month with reading The Shattered Bond by Miranda L., which is the sequel to Beneath the Silent Stars. And this is a indie author that I found on Instagram, and she sold me with how she wrote it. It's clean. It is clean. I don't know that I would say spice-free because there's a lot of yearning and some passionate kissing. And I mean, I've seen what level spices there is, and so I understand that. But if you are somebody who doesn't like spice, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this because there is a lot of yearning and passion. But it is clean. It does deal with a lot of heavy, dark topics, so keep that in mind. I think there is a warning at the beginning of this, the second one, a content warning that, yeah, it deals with depression and self-harm thoughts. So keep that in mind. This series is a fantasy series. It doesn't have swears that I noticed. Like I said, it has yearning and kissing, but it's not nothing too graphic. There is some graphic violence though, and other things going on. And I can't tell you too much about this one because you have to know what happens in book one. And book one has a major twist that affects everything that happens in book two, and so I don't want to give it away. But basically you have a fantasy world where there were the stars who kind of ruled. They were like their gods, and they gifted powers to certain people, the Starborn. And there was a big comeuppance with the stars that happened, and the stars shattered, and so they are no more. But people still are starborn and have those innate powers, but there are no stars in the sky anymore, and there are star shards. They are on Earth that you can, like pieces of the stars that fell, that you can use and imbue power from, which is a unique magical system. There's, you know, the normal things you're going to find in a normal romantasy. You've got an evil empire and you have a chosen one trope, and a little bit of a love triangle-ish, like big-ish. Like it's a hint, but you kind of know how it's going to go, or you think you do until book two. But or book one really. But it was a very good read. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to book three. But like I said, if you really can't handle a lot of passionate instances and some innuendo, it may not be the book for you. Other books I read, let's go through the library books first. I read Find Her by Ginger Reno, which is a debut novel by an Indigenous author, and it was phenomenal writing. Like, I already took the tabs out, but I had this all tabbed up because there were so many great quotes, such good writing. This follows a young girl, Ren, who, very beginning, you find out that her mother has been missing for 5 years, and it talks about the missing Indigenous women epidemic. Quite a bit, obviously, but she also is good at finding things, specifically animals, and so she starts her own private eye business of finding things, and she stumbles across some issues of animal abuse, and it goes through all of that, her trying to figure out who's doing it. She learns to bring people into her life. She's been very isolated since her mom went missing, afraid to trust or, you know, befriend anyone because she's afraid they'll be gone. There's a lot of great family topics in here, a lot of great friendship topics, but there is that heavy animal abuse. There's a character who is a child being abused, and it's a middle grade, so they all get found out in the end. The child abuse is stopped and the animal abuse is stopped, but some heavy topics, some intense moments, but it was a really good book. I really thought my only problem was, so heavy topics, so you know your kid. I would definitely recommend pre-reading it because it does have some mild swearing, so keep that in mind. And then I started, that was part of my private eye July, was Find Her. It was one of my modern private eyes. And then I have some books that I don't I think they're part of my catch-up-a-thon. So I have Colleen Coble's The View from Rainshadow Bay. And it's part of a series, but I think each book is kind of like standalone. I don't know. I could be wrong. It was really good. So I'm using this for catch-up-a-thon, trying to catch up with some of the library books I have backlogged in my on my desk. And this one, you deal with concepts of a young widow with her son, and things are not as it seems. She ends up befriending the person she blames for her husband's death. And a lot of secrets get uncovered throughout. There are some private eye vibes, I felt like, in this, because they're trying to solve the problems because the police are just not really believing a lot of things they're saying. But then the police come around, and so it's not like a poo-poo on police, you know. They end up coming around and realizing, oh, this really does matter, and there are so many crazy things going on in here. For content considerations, there's kidnapping, there is explosions, there is violence, there is drug use. Like a character had died from drug use, and just, it was a lot going on. It was very intense, but I enjoyed every minute of it. I really enjoy Colleen Coble's writing. I also enjoy that her romance is kind of, it's not a subplot, it is the plot, but the action and suspense is the main focus, and the romance stuff kind of comes along the side with it. But you have a lot of dealing with grief, dealing with forgiveness, and all of those concepts that go around with the young widow. So I enjoyed that. And then I read Where Trees Touch the Sky, which is a Redwood National Park novel, and I still have it tabbed up a bit, but I had it more. Karen Barnett writes these amazing romance novels set in national parks. So I read her whole Vintage National Park series and absolutely loved it. And now I'm reading her other national park series, and Redwoods is the #1 place I want to visit on my bucket list. So every moment of reading this is like, I have to go, I have to go, I have to go. And I'm not even paying attention to the story because I'm so excited about the nature stuff. But no, it is a great dual timeline romance history. And you have, so you've got the historical side, which, the one side is in the 20s and the other side is in the 70s. So you've got dual timeline, both historical fiction, both follow a romance story. The earlier time period is talking about, what do you call them? Conservation versus logging. And then the more modern timeline, the 70s, is talking about perception of people and people who have disabilities, because the main character in the 70s section, she has had polio as a child and now has a leg that's not quite as active as the other. And so she's got misconceptions about her abilities and all those things that go along with it. Like I said, there's still the romance side of it. There's lots of beautiful nature things in here. They were like, it doesn't get past 75 and it's mid-August. I'm like, sign me up, because it's 95 here this week. But so many wonderful things, so beautiful. Beautiful story with forgiveness concepts, and just finding your own independence and the cost of what that might be if you focus on what you want more than what others. It was just really phenomenal. And then I read Fire Mountain by Dana Mentink, and this was intense. Okay, I really, really loved it. It's an Elements of Danger, and it's inspired kind of by, that sounds bad, inspired by Mount St. Helens. It takes place in the same mountain range at Mount Ember, and it's getting ready to explode, and you open up, and on Kit Garrido, who is a 30-year-old female truck driver, and she is unconscious in her cab, and a man comes to her rescue who lives on that mountain also, and he saw her accident, so he comes, and immediately you find so many surprises going on. And so things happen to where they now have to not only escape the volcano, but there are some bad guys after them as well, because they think that there was something that she picked up along the way on her truck route, but she has amnesia and can't remember the last like 24 hours. So very intense, a lot going on, very fast paced, very fun read. There's some surprises. I don't want to give it away what they are. So, but very intense, really enjoyed the writing. I'm hoping to read more by this author because it was a good, intense, and that was not my Private Eye July. That was part of my catch-up-a-thon. And then another Private Eye in July, I read Sherlock Holmes. I did not read this Sherlock Holmes because this is an abridged children's version. The library did not mark it as an abridged children's version. I did a audiobook of The Sign of Four and The Red-Headed League. Red-Headed League, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Highly recommend. I did the BBC version audiobook. And The Red-Headed League is like, it's only an hour. It's like a 45-minute audiobook, so I don't want to give it all away. But basically, a guy put in an advertisement for redheaded people. He gets the job. He's hired to do a job that's ludicrous. He has to sit for 4 hours a day and copy the encyclopedia. And then all of a sudden, his job stops, and he wants Sherlock Holmes to figure out why. Why was he hired to do this? What happened to his employer? Is he out of luck? Hilarious fun. The other one I read was The Sign of Four, or listened to was The Sign of Four, Sherlock Holmes. I did not like it. I did not like it. There were a lot of racist tropes, a lot of women hating, and the only redeeming factor, you also have Sherlock first seeing his cocaine habit, so that's terrible too. The only redeeming thing from The Sign of Four is that Watson meets Mary Morstan, who he's going to marry. But that was like literally the only redeeming factor from that story. So, yeah, Sherlock Holmes was a disappointment this month. Then I had some other audiobooks that I want to talk about. So I listened to The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald, which is weird. I don't think I have it in here. I think I put it back on my shelf. But I did the audiobook version of it because this is third or fourth time I've read it. And I'm trying to read George MacDonald this year. And Princess and the Goblin, I already know. I knew the story, so I didn't feel like I needed to eyeball read it. It's weird. It's short. It's funny. It's very witty. He has like maybe it's like a dry sense of humor kind of. There's silly things just tucked in there in his fantasies. But you have a young girl who is a princess who's living in a castle very secluded, and she doesn't know why, but there are goblins who hate the royal family and want to do anything because they blame them for making them go under the ground, and they'll do anything to get back at them. But she doesn't know this, and she meets a young boy who comes to her rescue once when she's out and trapped by the goblins, so she still doesn't know that because she's like 11. And it just goes on, and you follow Curdy, the young boy, who he figures out the goblins' big scheme, and she has a mysterious magical grandmother. A lot of craziness going on. I feel like every time I read a George MacDonald, I feel like I did not give it enough time, and I really need to go back and reread it with some more thought. But I think that it's going to be a reread kind of situation. I think I need to get through his works and then go back and reread them at another point in time when I have time to analyze them, because I know there's a lot of deeper thoughts in there, and I'm just sitting here going, what on earth is going on? It's so weird. So yeah, but it was really good. It was enjoyable. Like I said, I really loved it. Other audiobooks that I did was Rebellion 1776 by Laurie Halse Anderson. I really enjoyed that. I have a whole video about Laurie Halse Anderson. Rebellion 1776 was actually my least favorite of her Revolutionary War books. Follow a young girl who's left behind in Boston by her father when the Patriots come in and take over from the British, and her struggle to try to find a job, keep up with things, find her father, and all of that goes through it. What I didn't like about it is that the main character feels she needs to deceive and lie to make a lot of things happen, and she never really comes about from that. And so I didn't appreciate that part of it. But the writing is decent. The characters, she's wishy-washy. Like I said, I don't like the character that much because of those things. And the story's okay. It's okay. So there was that. I also listened to On Isabella Street, and I think it's Genevieve something. It's written by Genevieve something. And let me see if I can find it. On Isabella Street. Genevieve. Nope, I can't read my own handwriting. Anyways, this is a historical fiction set during the 70s in Canada. And so you're getting a Vietnam War perspective from a Canadian side. And the main character that you follow is, can't think of her name. It'll come to me. It was a weird one because there was Marion and then, right? I don't know. I'm not good with names. Anyways, and she is a psychologist, and she is dealing with people who are mentally ill, and it's during a time when Canada is moving over to socialized medicine, and so they're getting rid of the individual clinics and opening it up to community centers. And she is a proponent for how this is not going to be the best case scenario for everyone, especially those coming back. And she is dealing with treating somebody who came back who was, though he was Canadian, he had volunteered to serve with the American forces over during Vietnam, and he'd come back and he was dealing with PTSD. She's digging into that before PTSD was a diagnosis or anything like that. And so you're getting all of those components, her interactions with them, her family's interactions, her father's perspective on his PTSD from World War II, and all of that going through. Well, she lives in a apartment building on Isabella Street, and across from her is a young hippie girl, and there are some things I don't love. There's a little bit of swearing. She has some relations outside of marriage. She stops it, so that's why I was like, okay, I can keep going, because she realized maybe I shouldn't be doing that right now. Some drinking, some of those things, because this is not a Christian book, but all of the other aspects were really good. And the young girl, the hippie girl, she ends up taking a job with her dad, and her brother is missing over in Vietnam. And there's a whole bunch going on in the background with relationships. The psychologist is learning to become friendly. She's an older, I want to say she's late 20s, early 30s. I say older than the hippie girl, but she is learning how to put herself out there. She realized she's been very secluded, very isolated, very stuck in her way, and she's trying to branch out and move a little forward. And the young hippie girl is helping her do that, and she's getting a little more solidity in her life and purpose from having this friend. And I just love seeing that friendship and how they balance each other out and grow. And there's just an awesome twist at the end. Very good commentary on Vietnam and all of the things that were going there from a very unique perspective. All right, then I also read or listened to, what did I listen to? I finished my Moonlighters series by Terri Blackstock, and that last book was called Twisted Innocence, and it was phenomenal. Like I said, this whole series is totally far-fetched until you get to the last book, and then it all makes sense. But you have 3 sisters who all have had tragic things happen to them. In each book, it focuses on a different one, and through that, they've joined a friend who is a former cop who is now a private eye, and he helps him. But by book 3, he was arrested for something he actually did that was against what he was supposed to do. So he understands. He's dealing with being in prison. A friend, I'm trying not to give things away. A friend is trying to help get him out of prison, get a pardon, because he never should have had the original thing that made him break the law, because they said he lied under oath. It was an unintentional lie, so it really shouldn't have been a hit on the but then because he had lied under oath, that's a felony, so then he wasn't allowed to carry a handgun, and to protect someone, he used a handgun, so then he got arrested. It's a whole thing. Anyways, you follow the 3 sisters, and then you also follow some of the other characters, male characters throughout. You have some romance going on. This particular one followed the youngest sister, who has had a rough life and has been making some changes, and you see a lot of her coming to understand what really matters, what really is important, and what she should do, and how she should change her life if she wants to live a certain way. Really loved it. I love Terri Blackstock's books. If you do audio, or if you get it, make sure you read the author's note, because they are like a devotional in and of themselves. And then I read 2 books, which is a unfinished trilogy. I did not know this. I got to investigate my books more before I pick them up. But and Twisted Innocence was for Private Eye July. These 2 are part of the Jealousy Falls series by Dani Pettrey. I want to say Dana Pettrey? Dani Pettrey. And One Wrong Move, and then 2 Seconds Too Late. And then there's a 3rd book coming out, I think, in September. A lot of books coming out in September. Anyways, they follow, again, a family of private eyes. Very, very different. So One Wrong Move, I'm trying to remember which one's which. One of them follows an art, what do you call it? Like an art heist. And then the other one, what happened in that one? I don't even remember. Oh, her friend left her a secret item, and she doesn't know what it is, and people are now after her, and they're trying to solve this missing friend problem and what it is that they're even trying to get from her. I'm very interested. They're both romance novels, along with all of that. But I feel like the romance really is a subplot in both of those because you're so focused on solving the crime. But I think it may also be how you're reading it, because like if you're really into romance, you may be like, yes, that was a great romance novel, don't care about the heist. Whereas I was like, yeah, the heist, I want to see how they're gonna solve it and who did this. And then I was like, oh yeah, that was really great, they fell in love too. So, you know, it could be either way. And so those are what I've read so far this month. And so I'm doing pretty good on Private Eye July. Oh dear, my books are falling out. And I'm doing okay on the catch-up-a-thon. So Private Eye July, I've watched a Private Eye and I've read several modern Private Eyes, and now I've done a historic Private Eye, and I'm in the middle of some other books. I was going to share what I'm in the middle of because I have a huge stack of books I'm currently in the middle of. But I feel like this video is long enough. So I'm going to try to focus on catch-up-a-thon this week and next, I don't know, till the 26th. Finish up Private Eye July, and we'll see how many other books I get to. I'm kind of like, that was a lot of physical books for me for 1 month so far. And it is July, what, 16th when I'm filming this. So I've already done so many physical books plus audiobooks. And I got to get ready for school. We homeschool and we start in 2 weeks. So I gotta do that. But yeah, that's what's going on. Join me at the end of the month and I'll share what books I finish from here on out. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a good day.